Now, I find it very interesting that no one that I know of actually thinks public speaking is something that comes naturally to them. And I myself is definitely one of them, where I found it really difficult in the early days when I started public speaking and really getting myself that courage to step in front of a larger audience, right, to share my message. And initially, it could be very nerve-wracking, and sometimes I failed terribly in the beginning. But in this video, I want to share my personal experience and also my top tips on how you can nail this going forward as one of your key skills to really use it as a way to scale the amount of people that you can reach from one to many opportunities that essentially results from you speaking in front of people, sharing about your projects, your ideas, and sharing about what you're working on, and ultimately getting more collaborations, opportunities, potential leads, and inquiries coming your way. Hi, I'm Laurie Wang. I'm a digital marketing strategist who has also built a business under her personal brand. And on this channel, I share lots of content that really helps you level up your content, your social media, and also your business growth. So if that all sounds good, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. All right, let's dive in. Public speaking can be such a great skill if you know how to use it in the right way. Now, for those who public speak regularly, they'll find that new opportunities can often land on their laps because of the fact that they're actually out there sharing their messages and what they're working on with the world. So these could be new job opportunities, it could be potentially some new clients, some new inquiries, it could be new sales in their products. Whatever it might be, public speaking can be a stepping stone to all kinds of opportunities. So in this video, I'm going to share my personal experience with public speaking and how I went from a public speaking beginner all the way to now where I actually leverage it as part of my key part of my business and becomes a key income stream in my business as well, being hired as a public speaker externally and also training on people on what I do. And essentially this now become also my number one inquiries and leads source because when I actually step on stage, there are always going to be new opportunities and new client inquiries coming my way. So that's why I want to share this with you and how you can also leverage public speaking and my top tips on how you can start doing that straight away. So when I first got started in public speaking, what I found really nerve-wracking is the fact that when I stand on stage, my mind suddenly just goes blank. And I'm sure some of you guys who have gone through this before, you know what I'm talking about. Where I think it's that nerves and the nervousness that really gets to you. And essentially, your mind just stops working and you're actually just scrambling for words. And by the time you know it, you start talking about more nonsense and then you end up going to this rabbit hole. So it sounds familiar? Definitely happened to me before. However, one of the biggest tips that I have on public speaking to get started with is that don't be afraid to mess up. And actually, there are lots of opportunities that you can mess up for free where you can actually learn the skills and hone your skills over time. So let me share what some of those are. You're probably thinking, why you're encouraging me to mess up, Laurie? Well, that's actually one of the best ways to learn because then you navigate around those feelings of nervousness, in my opinion. And then when you mess up, you learn how to quickly navigate around that and turn things around. So one of the organizations I really love is called Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is actually where I got started initially, where I started going to these small, intimate group settings where everyone's aim in that organization, in your local chapter, is all about improving their public speaking skills. And we all know how important the skills could be. Whether you're in a career, whether you're in a business, you can have to public speak at one point or another. Either it's in a team meeting or perhaps you need to present about your business in front of a larger audience or investors. And at these local chapter meetings, let's say on a regular basis, I think it's every 2 weeks or something like that, where you can actually go and essentially you're encouraged to take the opportunity to speak about a topic of a theme of that week, to step into that friendly audience who will encourage you and actually cheer you on as you're messing up. And I think that's been something that's really helpful for me because I was in a safe environment and I get to test out my ideas, test out the way I speak in front of them and getting really critical feedback that I can then use to make my speaking even better. And another one really is to seek out as many free opportunities to speak as possible initially. And this is a great way, for example, in your local meetup. So meetup.com is fantastic for this, where you can find out some local groups that are actually doing speaking events, or maybe local groups are running meetups in your area, in your industry. And you can actually reach out to the organizer and say, hey, I'm more than happy to come and speak about a specific event for your audience. And would you like me to do that? And again, usually with a free event, they don't have a lot of expectation up front. And the good thing about this is that it's a great way, again, in a safe environment, to share your ideas with others, to help others, right, with your expertise, whatever it is that you know, and then actually using that as a way to practice your public speaking as well. Now, I started many ways in this case, where I remember one of the first ones that I've done, surprisingly actually turned out to be a quite big event. It's actually over 100 people that attended, all about influencer marketing. And I remember the first time I did that, I was literally so nervous beforehand. But after I did it, it felt amazing because I felt like I just accomplished another fear-based goal where now I can actually overcome that fear and actually push my comfort zone even further. And of course, being one of my first opportunities to speak to such a larger audience, I don't think I did my best. However, I give it my best. And I think that's a key difference here, is that you're giving your best given what you know and your skills right now. And as you get better and better, then you can start thinking about potentially eventually charging as a public speaker. Because then you can confidently say, this is the value that I can provide for your audience based on my skill as a public speaker that I honed over the years, right? And also using this combination with your expertise that you built alongside that as well. So the key thing here is that don't worry if you mess up, because at the end of the day, we should all realize that we're all human. We stumble over our words, we're gonna lose our thoughts sometimes, but the key thing is that you know how to get back on track and continue sharing your ideas to get to the end of the talk. Now, the second tip that I have is that you want to practice, practice, and practice. And actually, the more public speaking that you do, the more that you will do. And I shared about this before in one of my other videos, is that because you're public speaking out into the public, right? Then obviously that's gonna lead to more people knowing about what you do. And you'll find in a funny way that every time you speak in public, you're gonna get more people coming to you afterwards who want to invite you to other speaking events. And that really rolls on and on, becoming this almost like an endless opportunity that comes your way to keep you out there in the public speaking arena. So I think that's a great reason on why you should get yourself out there as early as possible. And you never know who might be in the audience. That's what I always say, right? It happened to me many times. It happened to Simon, who's my husband, many times. If you know him well, he's a very well-established speaker at this point. But every time he speaks in public, whether it's paid or free back in the day, there's always more opportunities coming his way because of the fact that people recognize the quality that you are as a speaker, and they want to invite you to their local community, to their companies, wherever it might be later on. So I think that's a key way to think about how you can use this as a way to grow your opportunities even further. And initially, if you feel like you don't want to be practicing in public just yet, you can also practice in private, right? Where maybe you can use your living room as a way to present, to showcase your slides perhaps on the screen of your TV or your laptop, and really talk to an imaginary audience there to get comfortable doing that. And like I said, once you have that down, you can always go out to local organizations like Toastmasters, where there's actually a safe environment of audiences who are ready to hear your talk and also give you some great feedback on the back of that too. So here's my tip number 3, is that you want to incorporate your audience's needs into what you're actually sharing in your talk. So when you're designing your overall content of the talk, make sure to take that into perspective. Now, many times I've seen speakers who are actually just using the same topics or the talk they design over and over again. While that might save you time, you want to make sure you kind of do that research beforehand, knowing who's coming to this talk and what their demographic is, what their challenges are, and how you can answer those challenges in what you have to share. Now, this really applies to anything in marketing, but also especially in public speaking, right? Because you want to make sure that you're delivering what the audiences are actually looking for. And don't be afraid to be honest, to be human, and to be vulnerable, because I find that those are actually much more relatable than those who just talk about how a perfect condition in a perfect life and how everything had worked out perfectly, because no one can relate to that. You want to actually incorporate examples, either in your personal experience or in stories of others that perhaps links to what you're trying to talk about here, and how they can also find that similar challenges and also identify with that, and also eventually how they came across with a solution for that as well. So think about all these things, how you incorporate those elements into your talk to make it a lot more realistic and a lot more relatable when you step in front of your stage. And lastly, this might come across as a very general tip, but I think it applies to anything, but especially in public speaking. That is, be yourself. I know it sounds really like trite, maybe to some people, but in my opinion, you know, when it comes to the best talks that I've been to, and also the best talks that I've delivered, are the ones I'm actually being myself in front of my audience, rather than trying to become some other personality or trying to speak really eloquently that may not be the way I usually speak, for example, in front of them. Because I find that those are actually much more relatable. And like I said earlier in some of my other points, is that you want to be as human as possible. And when you're being yourself, not only you're being that relatable other human being, but also you're being your unique self that only has your unique personalities and your unique quirks and your unique sayings that you might be relating to in your talk. And I think that's what makes really you stand out versus other speakers out there. So nowadays when I go on stage, I rarely have a script prepared. I actually literally just speak off the cuff. And I find that that gives me not only adrenaline, right, to make sure I know what I'm talking about, but also I find that these are the talks that I get a lot more better feedback, because people actually come up to me and say, you know, Laurie, what you talk about in that story there, I really relate to it. This is what happened to me. Or Laurie, I really like that example. This is actually what happened in my business. So again, these are the things that I think when you do it off the cuff, it comes across as much more relatable to others who may be going through a similar experience as you, or maybe have been going through that similar experience. So that age-old saying of finding your own voice might sound really trite, but there's some truth to it. At the end of the day, you might be surprised to find out that I'm actually secretly an introvert, or I guess an ambivert in some sort, where I enjoy being introvert sometimes, and sometimes I can actually get myself out there, sort of becoming an extrovert temporarily, before I need to recharge my energy to become an introvert. Again, in my own time, let's say doing some reading, the quiet reading, and also quiet reflecting. So I think that's actually where a lot of creators and creatives in general fall into, because a lot of times we use those elements of reflecting and quiet time to think to ourselves, to come up with great ideas. But also we should have an element of that extrovertness when we need it to go out there and present our ideas to reach more audiences that way. So if that's where you find you fall into as well, then I hope that this video has been helpful for you to actually get yourself out there, to have that initial courage to step onto a stage for the very first time and start delivering your ideas, delivering your creations, and everything that you're doing to the audience, because you never know who's in the audience and you never know what opportunities may come your way. So thank you so much for watching. If you found the video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you liked about it, and also whether you want to see more content like this going forward. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.